At Dragonsteel, Brandon Sanderson's last convention for the Cosmere, he very boldly, as I mentioned in my last metal review, told everyone that for the Cosmere, the gloves were coming off. And the Lost Metal I found to be a very solid follow-up for that statement, due to the fact that specifically in regards to how the Lost Metal was positioned within the Cosmere, a whole lot more was revealed to readers about the potential we saw to come. Tress is following up that statement in a very different and interesting way, but I find to be equally valuable when it comes to the future of the Cosmere and Sanderson's career as a writer. Now, I do want to apologize though for it taking me a little bit longer than normal for getting you this review. I was told a box was being sent to me, and I personally wanted to unbox it as a part of the review because, you know, I'd be getting the book. Here is that footage. The package is here. But for a special box, a special knife, and into the box it goes. Creating our worlds to inspire yours. The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. It's a little mouse pad. Oh, look at that. That's so cute. Oh, and he's got, look at the little things he's throwing out in his hand. He's like, I'm gonna throw these planets at your face. Dream big, idiot. An enamel pen. Look at that little enamel pen right there. No, focus on the pen. There we go. Boyd for president. Ha-ha! And then they got a bunch of stickers. Thank you. I have the best fans in the world. You've proven that to me time and again. You are awesome. You are amazing. You have incredible taste in books. That is really great. The confusing part for me, though, is the book wasn't in there. And I refrained from buying the book because I thought I was gonna get sent the book. So I'm gonna go buy the book now. So I went out, got the book on my own through an audiobook distributor that is not Audible because duh. And in the span of 2 days, finished Tress of the Emerald Sea. And my review on it, oh, it's gonna be glowing! But before we get into that, I would like to say today, the 17th, is the last day you are gonna be able to buy merch from danielbgreen.com for the Disheveled Goblin merch line. After today, it is gone until Kayla is ready to release her next merch line in maybe like another season. And I also just wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for making this the best-selling merch run we've ever had. And I also want to weirdly thank Fourth Wall, like having features that let me thank every single person who buys merch, which hell yeah, I have kept up with. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the review. And I did something that I don't normally do. I wrote a full script for this review instead of just bullet points because I really felt the need to get this right. So here we go. It is so wildly impressive to me as a fan that Brandon Sanderson just dropped one of the best books in his bibliography right after dropping another book I consider to be one of the best in his bibliography. And it's completely different, while also still clearly having the connections fans will be drooling over. Wow! I had felt a couple misses from Brandon recently, but when this man said he was taking his gloves off, he meant it. In these recent 2 books, Sanderson has shown he can not only change up his approach to expanding the Cosmere, but his overall writing style and handling of the characters he is establishing. This is not only one of the most playful books Sanderson has written, it is nearly as playful and hilarious as the best Discworld has to offer. I say that as a massive Discworld fan who thinks Terry Pratchett is still underrated despite still how highly rated he is today. I am even confident in saying that if you like Discworld but have previously possibly not loved Sanderson's work, you should probably pick up Tress of the Emerald Sea. I don't think it'll make you suddenly love the rest of the Cosmere, but Tress also stands on its own well enough to just be a solid as hell recommendation for people who enjoy lighthearted fantasy, as Sanderson notes in his acknowledgments and everything at the end, that it is inspired by tales like Princess Bride, apparently more specifically. For me, it hit very Discworld, but apparently he was more directly inspired by Princess Bride. I have personally recently felt a bit burnt on Sanderson's epic stories, and seeing him pivot to something so sweet, lovable, and clever is a genuinely pleasant surprise. But alright. What exactly is Tress? It is the story of a young woman sailing across a world to rescue her love from an evil sorceress as told by Hoid. And yes, Sanderson has even more fun with that while having Hoid within the story itself than you could possibly see coming. It drips from the story in the most delicious way, not an overdressed salad, but a rapidly melting ice cream you want to wolf down on a hot summer's day. Tress is brilliant as a protagonist. In fact, my only character complaint is I needed more time to just hang out with this crew. Everyone is so lovable or frustrating and hateable in the right way. The villains are terrifying from the living antagonists to the natural environment. Every character believably acts their age while being exceptional. And I really appreciate that distinction. Writing age-appropriate internal dialogue and thought processes that do feel exceptional for the character, but still very reasonable for who they are physically, literally in the world. Tress herself isn't unbelievably smart or anything along those lines. In fact, she's quite flawed, and it gets her in trouble. It's entirely her earned growth as a character that then gets her out of said trouble. We also have very different types of villains and play within the narrative, and themes that are different from what I expected going in, and wonderfully still very Sanderson. I can't say more than that without getting into spoilers, but I will also say, well, yes, this does hit quite different from a lot of what Sanderson has written before. I don't want Sanderson fans themselves to be nervous that this is going to be an entire left turn. You can still definitely tell this is written by Brandon. Due to many of his trademarks approach to characterization and things along those lines, he's just seeming to have a lot of fun with how he's then packaging those Sanderson-isms within this book. Plus, the end of the story is something I personally saw coming, but in a very good way. I can't say any more than that without getting into spoilers, but I loved how everything in the details is so unpredictable. That will make sense once you read the book if you have not already. And the catharsis at the end, which is largely based off the growth the characters have gone through, mwah! I just kicked my camera, oops. Get back in position, don't. Dice. Okay. The core concept of the world building is phenomenally thought through, and I'll let people kind of discover that more on their own. I don't want to spoil it because kind of seeing how it's utilized and what exactly it is at the core of this story, it was one of my favorite parts of the reading experience to explore. So while we don't learn about my favorite Cosmere magic system, we might learn about my favorite Cosmere world in core concept. And the narrative play on display here might be my favorite element of the storytelling as a whole, because from the perspective we're going into this for, Hoid is telling us a story he is involved in, and how much that is utilized to just make the reading experience as a whole so flavorful and different. Largely, that is because Hoid as a character is a fantastic storyteller, and the way that he interjects and commentates on the events is hilarious. But of course, what we're actually seeing there is Sanderson as the character of Hoid, and it felt like a really wonderful performance. I can't think of another way to describe it than that. As for the story itself, it is a pirate tale, and if you have been paying attention on the channel, you'll probably know that I'm pretty partial to pirate stories. And here is where Sanderson does rely probably the most heavily on tropes and cliches. But this is a phenomenal example, again, of why these tropes are not necessarily something authors should shy away from, especially if we're willing to package them in an environment that feels quite different than how people may have come across them before. Tropes and cliches are sprinkles and cookie dough topping on this story, not distracting from the actual quality at the core of it at all. And personally, I like having a pirate tale with a talking animal companion and talks of mutiny. It's just enjoyable, what can I say? And it all just feels so natural. It wasn't until I was surprisingly deep into these tropes being involved in the story that I even had like the wherewithal to note, oh yeah, this is quite typical for what you'd expect, but it's still so enjoyable. Oh, and speaking of, if you are a One Piece fan, I just want to say that I think you might like this one quite a bit. And if you're a Cosmere fan who finds yourself liking this story quite a bit, maybe go on over and check out One Piece. Am I just saying that because I want to get more Cosmere fans to read One Piece and One Piece fans to read Cosmere? Yeah, I'll end this review by reiterating something I said at the beginning. I thought Sanderson and the Cosmere had peaked in a way. I thought competition for this specific style of epic multi-world fantasy was going to get too substantial, and the Cosmere would end up stop feeling so different and special, and instead just sit near the top of a genre it helped influence massively. And with 5 bonus books going to be coming out, I was genuinely, as a fan, kind of afraid they would not be up to par for what the Cosmere had seen before. Color me embarrassed for having thought it was even a possibility. I am happy to say that after reading The Lost Metal and Tress of the Emerald Sea back to back, Sanderson has just begun to not only show us the true potential of the Cosmere, but his ability as a writer. If I could say something directly to Sanderson himself, it would be, don't you dare put those gloves back on. Tress of the Emerald Sea is a masterpiece in my opinion. It's probably my favorite Cosmere book. Damn you, Brandon. You did it again. So that is my review of Tress of the Emerald Sea. I think some people might not be as big a fan of it as myself. This just really lined up for my taste, being obviously more Discworldian than like anything else Sanderson has put out, and that being maybe my second favorite fantasy series of all time. But I'm just gonna end this by saying, hey, it's the last day ever to go ahead and get things like the Disheveled Goblin hoodie, the Plot Armor tee, or the Spank Books tee. So if you'd like to, it'd mean the world to me if you just check out danielbgreen.com and like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace.